Hi, this is clip 5, Raragh Wind Farm. It's the 28th of July 2019 and on a farm, and generally people are in a holiday mood. The crops are gathered, but there's an air of despair around here because we are totally surrounded now by the Raragh Wind Farm, and people are very, very upset. But I'm not going to look at that here. I'm looking at the benefit this wind farm is to the developer and to the people who will eventually own it. And that's very important to understand. So we look at it like this. The first thing is there is a little bit of maths involved. C is a constant. That's 8766 number of hours in the year. P is the price. That's 75. Multiplied by the capacity of the wind farm, which is 11. Multiplied by the factor, how much percentage it will get electricity generated, or is known as the yield. Now I'll show it to you here. You can work out 8766 hours in any year, in average year. Multiply that then by 75 euros per megawatt hour. Now that's the wholesale price. The unit price you pay is 1,000 of that. You'd be paying something about 26 cent or 260 euros per megawatt, 26 cent for a kilowatt. So the difference between the wholesale price, let's say for fossil fuel electricity, is 57 wholesale, and you pay 260 retail. Okay, so the wholesale price is a lot less. Now, the first thing now to look at is we have the number of hours of the year. Now, the price to get is 69.5 euros per megawatt hour, but there are add-ons in the form of capacity payments, curtailment fees, and a number of other incentives that are. And it's generally agreed, and even I've had this out with some big supporters of wind, that the price is around 75 euros per megawatt hour, and that reflects in the accounts of many wind companies. I've examined over 25 of those, and that's roughly right. 75, maybe 76. We'll go 75. Could be a little less, maybe 74, but 75 is pretty good. So we have 75 here, that's the price. The next thing is the capacity of the Raragh Wind Farm is stated at 12 megawatts. Now there are 5 Enercon E82 2.3 rated turbines, but an examination of EirGrid's dashboard will show you they never achieve full capacity. It's rarely ever happen. Doesn't actually happen. We have 3,400 megawatts of wind in the Republic, and the best it ever achieves is about 2.8, maybe 3,000 megawatts. So to be generous, I'm going to rate this wind farm down just a little from 12 to 11. You can see it here. Okay, there you are. Okay, see it there. Right, now the next thing then is the load factor. This is hotly contended for years until the accounts came out. EirGrid were telling the wind companies that if you put up a wind farm you'll get 32.5%, which will bring them into profit. They admitted to me after that's wrong. And I have an email from EirGrid showing that in 2018 the percentage output was 20%. Professor Gordon Hughes and I did a study, both separately, in 2 different years, and we found for Ireland and the UK 24 and 24.1% respectively. So what they actually get is 24, and we're giving them 24 here on this side because Gartnan did get 25 on 1 year. Now it's almost certainly only 22%, but again I'm giving all the benefit to the company here. Now you simply multiply, you can do it yourself if you have a calculator. 8766 multiply by 75, multiply by 11, multiply by 0.24 to give you 1735668. 1735668, or 1.7 million euros. And that's in line with what we find for small wind farms everywhere. Now the next thing is, what are the expenses? Now at 24% for a new wind farm, or maybe a wind farm 2-year-old, maybe the first year it mightn't be so bad, but there are teething problems to be sorted. So they're average out at 24% load factor that the expenses are 76%. And that includes rent to farmers, commercial rates, repairs, maintenance, administration costs, wages, everything you can imagine. They even use electricity, and we're not sure how much that is. Some say it's 20%, some say it's 10%, but they're charged for it. And it explains perhaps the high figure of expenses. And every wind farm is showing this, no matter where you go, huge expenses involved, because they're delicate machines in the end of the day, and there are all kinds of issues with them. And the one in Gartanan is only, it was commissioned in 2004, and in 2019 in January it got 2 new gearboxes. There were 2 new gearboxes fitted, and they're around 300,000 a piece. So you can see after 15 years they're starting to be repaired. And there's an internet website on investment, and it's talking about why not invest in reconditioning wind farms. And you'll see here, why should you invest in reconditioning when you can't get your money back for the first investment you made? So now we're looking at 76% to give us expenses at 1,319,107, 1.3 million. So we're projecting here now for maybe next year or the year after it's commissioned. That's what the expenses will be. And when you take the expenses from the income, you get 416,561. 416,561, or 416,500. 416,000 effectively, and a little change left over. Okay. Now, the next thing is we take just a basic ballpark figure. The cost of this is given in all the documents for planning at 30 million. And if you divide 30 million by 416,561, you get 72 years to pay it back. Even if it was 28 million, 67, and if it was 26 million, 62. The cost in a lot of these now is underground cabling, which in the case of Cool in Westmeath runs for 29 kilometres, in Tahart it's 9 kilometres, and in Raragh it's 5 kilometres. So it's a very expensive business. So we see now, just again, it'll be 72 years to pay back the figure, based on what they have left when they pay their expenses. Okay. Now, a child born the day that's commissioned will be 72 when it's paid back. So the cost works out at about 2.5 million per megawatt. That's roughly the cost of a wind farm today. It used to be about 1.9, but it's gone up a bit. And then there's a lot of roads to be made here, a lot of channeling, a lot of trenches, a lot of connecting cables. Now, usually the way they finance these is not with equity, not with shareholders. It's with bank loans, because if you get shares offered and they don't come up when you need them, you can't pay your contractors. So they get a bank loan, and then they pay off the bank loan. So what all of these are showing, all the accounts are showing, is that they pay interest. Now, I've worked out a little bit of the interest here, but effectively, when they pay their expenses, the next thing to pay is the interest on the loan. And we can look here that at 30 million, the interest at 5% will be 1.5 million. And that brings the total amount to be paid back at 31.5, right? And divide that again by our profit of 416,561, and it'll be 75 years before it's paid back. Now, the way interest is charged is charge the interest in the beginning. So when we look at wind farms, we find that maybe at a third of its way down into its life, or maybe half, you get an interest figure around this amount. This is the way interest is paid. The principal is paid over at the end, and the interest is paid in the beginning, because if you went into liquidation, they want to be able to have their interest collected before they start collecting the principal and dividing the spoils with other people who are owed money. So the thing about it is, anyway, there you see there. So you get around here, and when they pay this bit after about 9 years, they have a tiny amount to pay the principal. And so that tiny amount means they cannot pay the principal. So when you look into their accounts, you discover they're massively in debt. So the maximum life of a wind farm is 26 years. Sorry, 25 years. Right? I know of none to survive that long because they're not up long enough. But they start to degrade. And Professor Hughes found that at 19 years, the output goes down by 7%. They degrade over a period. So there'll be less income, and that's reflecting in the accounts as well. And some of them actually account for it in notes to the account by the auditors. So it's a real thing. It's there. 25 years is the maximum life. Gartanan is approaching 15 years old, and it got 2 gearboxes last year at a total cost of at least $500,000. So once you have to put the parts into them, you're paying. And there's internet websites on investment now recommending you invest in the reconditioning of wind farms. And you didn't even get paid for the first investment. So so that's an impossible situation. And the model they use is borrow and sell on, borrow and sell on immediately. Okay. So how do I know all this? Well, these are limited companies, and some are huge big companies. You cannot get the actual wind farm accounts because they're mixed in with normal electricity and gas and all that. But the Company Records Office in Dublin provides the accounts online for €2.50 a go. And you then can download them or print them or do what you like with them, and you can check them, and a little experience is needed to read them. So I understand how to read them, and all these figures are checked by an accountant, and they're 100% right. And I put them out there on social media, and they say, oh, you're wrong, but nobody will ever discuss them. So I know what you're wondering about. How in the name of heaven above can we be building a €30 billion wind farm on Raragh Hill when it's going to take, is it 72 years to rebuild, to pay? A child born today will be 72. He'll be retired, well, unless they change it, he'll be retired at least 6 years before the thing is paid off. It can't be paid off in any way. It'll be 72 years before it's paid off. And how can that be happening? What's the explanation for that? The motto is, as I said, borrow, build, and get rid of it as quick as you can. And that should set alarm bells ringing. This has been brought to the attention of government, and they don't want to know. And it's in my dossier, and I'll be dealing with that later and what we want to do about that. So thank you very much for listening to me on that. I hope that explains Raragh Wind Farm. Bye.